I went from drawing 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, to not touching a sketchbook for 2 years. Here's why, and what actually brought me back. I've been an artist ever since I've been conscious. Not always so good, but during COVID, I went from just barely drawing to drawing for 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. This coincided with me finally understanding how OCs work and getting really emotionally attached to my first one. Her name was Maybell, and she was for this OC prompt I made called Bad Howell Gulch, which defined my art experience for the first 2 years that I was active on Instagram, actually. But that's neither here nor there. From 2019 to 2024, all I did was draw and draw and draw and freaking draw. And then all of a sudden, I just stopped. 2 years later, I'm trying to stuff my heart back into my passion and stay committed to drawing. Why did I stop, and how can you avoid my fate? And if you're already me, how do you get out of that rut? So why did I actually stop? The first reason I stopped is kind of the most obvious, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but I actually stopped because the algorithm on the social media platforms I was on was just so horrible, absolutely so horrible to me. I don't know what it was. I used to do really good on Instagram when I had 2,000 to 3,000 followers, but there was a point around 4.8K where my Instagram just absolutely tanked. And this happened around the time where everyone else's engagement was starting to tank too. And I kept it pushing for a long time because I was one of those people that was posting regardless of the algorithm, but it was getting so hard for me to get any new eyes on my work that it was just really discouraging. And I think that this is something that a lot of artists have experience with. And I think what makes it feel even worse is that there are so many people who are just draw what you want to draw regardless of the algorithm. If you want to draw, you're just going to draw. I really do think that that's true. And it is really demoralizing to do poorly on any social media algorithm. Yes, artists shouldn't care about likes. They should draw regardless of likes, but it happens, okay? And when all of your art community is online, it's really hard not to tie your worth as an artist to your social media presence. It's just really difficult. And not to mention, when you're having trouble getting eyes on your work, you straight up are making less friends. You're making less art friends, and your art is being exposed to less people who are potential mutuals. So it becomes harder to even make friends. And because I also felt stagnant in my art and my improvement, it was a bad time all around. So the algorithm was a big thing for me. The second reason why I stopped drawing was I had a loss of the daily habit of drawing and the loss of a familiar, supportive environment. At the time, I just thought I was immune to this. So what does that mean? Number one, obviously, loss of a daily habit means exactly that. I stopped drawing every day, even for 5 to 10 minutes. I got into this mindset where if I did not have a 2 to 3 hour time block to draw, I just straight up didn't have time to draw. And up until that point in 2024, that was doable for me. But once I transferred to my 4-year college, because I'm an electrical engineering student, once I transferred to my 4-year college, I just lost everything. I lost my big home desk. I lost my habit of drawing. I lost the familiar environment and schedule of me coming home and being able to draw. And I was thrust into this different world, this different schedule where art just did not stay a priority, and I stopped drawing every day. And I would say that is one of the biggest things that killed my art, was not drawing every day, not keeping up the habit to draw every day. And I was also feeling really bad about, my improvement. I just wasn't improving at the rate that I wanted to. And you know what they say, you're your own worst critic. But I was bad. I still am pretty bad. I did not used to be so hard on myself and hard on my art, but I just was really mean to myself. And I think a big part of that was because I had started putting my worth as an artist onto how good I was. I only thought my art was worth creating if it looked good. And this is a part of the supportive environment situation. Originally, when I was going to talk about this, I was just going to talk about how I no longer had a desk to do my work at. I did not have a traditional drawing habit. I only ever drew digitally. So when I didn't have an easy way to draw digitally anymore, I just stopped drawing. But I just realized while talking about this that the supportive environment extends internally as well. I was so hard on myself for not improving, for not sticking to my goals, for not sticking to my practice regimen. Keeping in mind, I'm a full-time student, really struggling to adapt to a new place, a new school, trying to find new friends. I was really, putting myself out into the world, and I was not kind to myself about art at all. Nothing was ever good enough for me. Nothing I made was ever good enough. Nothing I did was ever enough practice. And I lost the internal supportive environment that made drawing fun. Whenever I drew, it just felt like I was going through the gauntlet. I would draw and I'd look down and I'd be like, oh, this is horrible. This is terrible. This is basic. This is too familiar. I'm not trying anything new enough. I'm not trying to improve my skills. But then when I did try to do that, it would look ugly because you're learning, right? So obviously when you learn, it's going to look ugly. It would look hideous. And I would be so harsh on myself. I got no joy out of making even ugly art. And it absolutely tanked my ability to improve, one, and then my motivation for actually drawing, two. And because it tanked my motivation to draw, because it looked so ugly, I stopped drawing. And I already know what people are going to say. They're going to say that the only way that anyone gets good at art is by being harsh on themselves and by pushing themselves past their limit. And I think to a certain extent that that's true. You have to sacrifice a little bit to gain a lot. And with art, some of that sacrifice is that you must sacrifice your ego in order to improve. And you do that by, bringing yourself down to size, admitting, hey, I'm bad at this. I'm bad at this thing, but I want to be better. And then working. But there is a limit to that. There is only so much you can take. You should never, ever be mean to yourself. You should push yourself the way that a parent pushes a child. Your inner artist is a child who just wants to play and draw. And, your adult artist wants to actually be good. So you have to find a balance between those two things. But the balance should never tip over into bullying yourself into drawing, because when you bully yourself into drawing, you're going to hate it. Now no one's improving because you hate drawing. You hate drawing. You can't dedicate the energy it takes to improve because you hate it. So that was a long tangent about the supportive environment also being internal. But I feel like it's so important that it deserved that much time. The third reason why I stopped is also a big one. A lot of big ones here. I straight up didn't know why I drew anymore. I had gotten into art to tell a story, but that did mean that I had to have a story that I wanted to tell. And luckily for me, I had plenty of those. I had plenty of stories that I wanted to tell. A lot of them were related to my developing identity as a lesbian. I've been a lesbian for a couple years now. And especially when I entered that new chapter of my art, I really wanted to build on what being a lesbian meant to me. And I wanted to make stories that reflected this identity. The problem with that is I started actually living a very lesbian life, and I started actually dating women, and which, lucky me, not many lesbians can say that, huh? Oh, well, okay. Let me scratch that from the record. Obviously, I'm still a lesbian, but I used art as a way to escape into a lesbian fantasy that I couldn't live at the time. I drew sexy women, of course, but I also drew women learning and exploring in relationships with other women. I drew women exploring their gender identity as lesbians. I drew all these things related to the experience of being a lesbian because, in part, I was using it to escape from a reality where I wasn't doing a lot of that. So when I started actually living a reality that allowed me to explore and actually live as a lesbian fully, the need to draw lesbians sort of slipped away a little bit. I still only draw lesbians. I still only draw women, but now it comes from a place of genuine storytelling about their individual stories. It has a little bit less to do with using my characters to fulfill lesbian urges within me, which I think is fine and dandy. But because my identity as an artist was so glued to using art as an escape into my lesbian identity, when I no longer needed art as an escape into it, I just didn't know why I drew anymore. I lost my reason for actually drawing, and that did a number on me. It did a number on me really bad. I went from being obsessive about my OCs, posting about them and drawing them for hours and hours a day, to posting absolutely nothing for months at a time, drawing absolutely nothing for months at a time. However, I think that this is actually a good thing for my art. It was a good thing for me to be forced to look deeper into why I draw and genuinely approach art from a place of storytelling and not a place of just like blatant hedonism. Now it gives me the freedom to explore art goals without my just insane amount of like wish fulfillment getting in the way, which I know you guys are gonna be like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? Like, that's awesome. Why would you ever want to stop doing that? It's because you can't do art studies. You can't do environmental renderings when all you want to do is sketch your two, like, lesbo OCs making out. Okay? It's hard to do art studies when that's the only thing on your mind. And it's not even just, art environment studies that I wanted to do. I couldn't do comics. I couldn't make animations. I couldn't finish actual fully rendered drawings because once I had sketched my characters making out, that was the wish fulfillment for me, and I'd move on to the next thing. So it was impeding actually my ability to enjoy the entire artistic process. Escapism bad, people. Escapism bad. Now that we've gone through all these reasons why my shit was chopped as fuck, okay, I want to talk about what actually made me come back. Because I've actually been drawing consistently for the past 2 weeks or so, and it's been absolutely lovely. I've noticed a mindset shift. I am actually feeling creative again. I feel the urge to draw, and I let myself do that. I feel like my time is being spent somewhere that I love. Where I've been absent from drawing has actually helped me in a way that drawing through those 2 years would not have. When I was gone for 2 years from drawing, there were a lot of things that I did. 2 of those things is I started working full-time at horse barns, which introduced me to a new passion I would have otherwise never found out. And let me tell you, I am passionate about horses. I absolutely adore horses. And additionally, I started writing and publishing short stories. I think that time away from art does an artist a lot of good. If you are exploring the parts of you that you didn't explore while you were drawing a ton. Something that I thought about a lot while getting back into art, and even before that, for the past couple of months, I've been thinking a lot about what my purpose is as an artist. Why do I draw? Through the experiences that I've had in the 2 years of being away from art, I've grown a lot as a person. And especially now that I no longer require wish fulfillment from drawing, it's like I genuinely have to relearn who I am and what I get out of art because it's changed. Without knowing why I draw, there's no motivation. So I had to take a good look at myself and ask that hard question of, is art even something I want to come back to? Before I quit art that fateful day in 2024, I was genuinely interested in my art fundamentals and actually improving as an artist and becoming a pro. The issue was that I was so hard on myself for not being consistent and for my output not being up to my standards, that it genuinely sucked all the joy out of art for me. But it was a difficult emotion because I still loved the art fundamentals and I loved studying the art fundamentals. So I had this weird conflicting mindset about it where I loved and hated learning at the same time. I loved learning in my brain, but I hated the process of learning on the page. Taking time away from art allowed me to roll back that mindset a little bit. And now I am able to engage more compassionately with my love of learning and allowing myself to be bad at the things that I try and being compassionate about being bad so that I may actually improve. Realizing that I genuinely loved studying art fundamentals, and now one of my primary purposes for drawing was becoming good at it, I was able to think about, well, how do I actually serve that part of me and keep drawing? And now that I know that that's what I love, I am able to draw feeling like I've found my purpose. Through writing, I've found that I also have a passion for storytelling. I'm a big storytelling lover. I love telling stories through characters. Realizing the secondary passion to art, I'm also able to focus on bringing love for art back through storytelling. So by finding my purpose, which I've discovered are mastery and storytelling, I've been able to imbue my art process with the joy that I once had by honing in on those qualities, while also not being super mean to myself. Enough of that. The next reason why I came back to art was that my brain developed. My brain freaking developed, dude. I'm going to tell you something. I have horrible ADHD, like severe ADHD, and I also have childhood trauma. So my brain is just straight up slower than everyone else's when it comes to maturing, and it will be slow until I'm like 27. My brain fully matures at a slower rate than everyone else's. So my brain, when I was like 19, my brain was effectively running the emotional capacity of like 16 or 17 years of age. Like I was running old ass software. Okay. I'm 23 now. Now that I'm 23, I actually have the patience to sit down and be like, okay, if I practice today and I practice tomorrow, over time, I will build up the muscles and I will become better over time. And that sounds obvious. That is obvious. It's not like 18-year-old me didn't know that. But what 18-year-old me didn't have was patience, compassion. She didn't have any brain cells to focus. Now that I'm older and my brain's a little bit more developed, I'm able to actually sit down and practice art. Don't underestimate that. Don't underestimate that, okay? Adults learn faster than kids. Adults learn faster than kids if you know how to learn. The problem is that adults have egos and therefore won't try things that they're bad at for fear of being bad at them, which is dumb as hell, but it's how our brains work. But if you can get rid of that ego, you will learn faster than a dumbass kid, okay? I say even though like the people that watch this video are gonna be like 16. Anyway, my brain developed and now I like to practice the fundamentals now. So that brought me back. My third and final note for this video is gonna be the most important, the most obvious, and the least surprising thing. The thing that physically returns me to the sketchbook every day in order to draw and actually put pen to paper is committing to a daily habit, a small daily habit. This is obvious. Everyone who's ever YouTubed has said this. I'm going to say it again because if you're watching this video, you probably don't like believe that it's as important as people say it is. It is as important as people say it is. In order to improve as an artist over time, you need to actually draw. But more importantly than that, you need to actually draw every day. And this isn't because, oh, well, if you draw for 50 minutes every day, you're going to improve over time. It's, baby steps. It's true. But it's not even the main idea here, okay? The main point of committing to a sustainable, short daily habit of drawing for 5 to 15 minutes a day is not because of small gains. Yes, you will improve 5 to 15 minutes a day added up over time, but that is not why you commit to the daily habit. You commit to the daily habit because if you don't, you will fall off. Life gets in the way. There will be days or even weeks or even months where you cannot draw for 2 to 3 hours a day. And when you fall off, it is that much harder to get back to drawing. What drawing for 5 to 15 minutes a day does for you is it makes it that much easier to come back to drawing when you do have the time. It keeps your skills fresh. It keeps your mind fresh on art. And it is the only way to build your muscle back up to be able to focus for these big study painting sessions, is keeping that 5 to 15 minutes a day habit. So yeah, all that finding my purpose stuff, my brain developing stuff, that's great and all for when I actually like am drawing and I'm thinking to myself, what's the purpose of this or whatever. Committing to a daily habit is the actual thing that put my pen to paper and actually puts me in the seat to draw every day and to get back to work. So yeah, I'm 23 now and I feel 2 years behind. Actually, even more than that because I was feeling behind before. But minute by minute, I'm earning back the feeling that actually brought me to art in the first place. And now that I'm old and have the brain cells to focus, I want to throw myself into learning the fundamentals, and I want to bring all of you guys with me so that we can all learn together. The internet is a great place to get a free art education, but there are so few people actually talking about what they did to get where they are. I want to be one of them. So subscribe if you're into that. Okay, this has been Babe Zoe, and I guess I'm done with you guys. Okay, bye!